This is the Playbook. On today's page of the Playbook, we'll be talking with a notable name to many Hokie basketball fans. Coach Shawn Good, head coach of the Roanoke Catholic boys basketball team, was a member of the Virginia Tech men's basketball program from 1992 to 1996 and was a key factor in their NIT championship his junior year. We'll be talking with Coach Good about his playing days, his transition into coaching, and his views on the AAU circuit. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Playbook Pod. Coach Patrick Puckett and Cliff Conley. Today we've got Coach Shawn Good of Roanoke Catholic men's basketball. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Cliff?
Doing just fine. We're excited to have you on. I know you've got a wide variety of experiences at the college level, the high school level, and even the AAU level as well. So we're very excited to have you on and interested to see what you had to say.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm happy to be here and look forward to it.
So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into coaching, those sort of things. I know some people want to hear about your Tech days too. So.
Yeah, well, it started, went to Fort Union Military Academy. That's how I ended up in Virginia. And then from there, got recruited by Virginia Tech and ended up at Virginia Tech. I had a really good career there, had other scholarship opportunities, went from high school where I had 0 Division I offers to Fort Union where I had over 30 Division I offers in like a season playing under Coach Fletcher Arrett. Learned a lot from Coach Arrett. I'm not sure if you guys know Coach Arrett. I think he's one of the greatest basketball minds that I've ever been around in my lifetime. But fast forward, my playing days are over at Virginia Tech. I'm walking on campus one day and a parent of a 4th grader or 5th grader stops me and says, "Hey, you're Shawn Good." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." So he introduces himself. Steve Heiner's his name, and we talked for about 25 minutes. And at the end of the conversation, he asked me, "Hey, would you be interested in coaching an AAU team?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I was probably 25 or 26 at the time, something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And didn't talk about anything else. After that, he said, "Well, we practice Thursday, be there Thursday." So I went there Thursday. I coached that team for 2 years. 2 years later, I get the head coaching job at Auburn High School, and pretty much the rest is history. I've been coaching for about 17 years now at the high school level. Had a lot of talented players, but it was a really strange introduction into coaching basketball for me.
So with that, we'll talk about your college career a little bit. So you went to Virginia Tech, and you had some experiences. It seems like I looked up your stats here, and you had a pretty amazing career there. 95, I think it was right. You had the NIT championship. What was that like?
Yeah, it was great. We during the season though, we're thinking, we need maybe one win and we make it to the NCAA tournament. But we lost in the first round of the of the conference tournament. We lost in the first round of the conference tournament to Southern Mississippi, who we had beaten twice in the season. So I think that pushed us out of the NCAA tournament. So we just felt like if we're not going to make it to the NCAA tournament, this is the best thing for us, is to play the best that we can in the NIT. And, everybody came together. We had a couple of close games against New Mexico State and Marquette in the championship. But it was a great run, great to play in Madison Square Garden. I didn't shoot the ball particularly well there, but it's always good when you can just win games no matter how you can. But that was a great experience for myself.
That's awesome. And, since it's probably been a little while since you were recruited and now you work on the high school level and you see how people get recruited, how's that process kind of work from your perspective, being at Roanoke Catholic and things like that, compared to how it was, back when you were recruited by Tech?
Gosh, man, I don't know. It's a lot different now. I think social media is playing a big role in how kids get recruited. 91, when I was coming out of high school, it wasn't Twitter, Facebook, any type of social media, Instagram, or anything. It was just the coach would call you. If he was interested, you probably talk to him maybe once a week or once a month, depending on the interest level. Nowadays, the coaches are texting kids. They're sending them direct messages on Twitter. They're, reaching out in other avenues, Instagram. So it's just really crazy now, the way that they are recruited here in the 2020s. Especially this year, it's really crazy with COVID. Kids aren't really getting seen as much. They're doing everything online and streaming. So it's amazing and weird at the same time.
And just to follow up, like with COVID going on, how are your practices? Are you able to, have your kids in and do like independent workouts? I know Galax, when I was still coaching, we were kind of separating the kids and, sanitizing everything. So many stations like that, but nobody could work together.
Actually at Roanoke County, we haven't been able to have any workouts at all. The girls volleyball team was having workouts at one time, and then I think some things happened, so they just shut all of that down, and they haven't allowed us to train kids individually, no small groups or anything. So I know with the VHSL, they've got a lot of people that are still doing open gyms and things. Like you said, sanitizing balls. I think they just allowed coaches to be able to have kids sharing basketballs back and forth. So it's getting better, but yeah, we're still not doing anything at Catholic.
I got you. I'd like to talk about a little bit before we sort of, we just talked about your playing career, a little bit before we transition into coaching too. I know you had some sort of overseas interests and opportunities there. Can you talk about that a little bit for listeners?
Yeah. So, when I graduated, I really thought that I wanted to play basketball the rest of my career, overseas or in the NBA. I had a couple opportunities to try out for some teams in the States, a USBL team, and then some CBA teams, and it never really worked out. So then I had an agent, and I had an offer to play in Germany for about, I think it was like $60,000. But I just wasn't into it at the time. Then I had another offer to play in Australia, but it was only for $25,000. I had to do a camp every day. So I think at the time I just decided, I don't feel like fighting this fight. I had spent so much time in high school and college just trying to stay in shape and get better, that I just reached a point in my life where I didn't want to go through that every single day and try to, just work out, get in the gym, run, and try to stay in shape just to keep playing a game that I love. So from that, I did camps with my father, my brother and I. We have a camp in Indiana that we do. So, I've always been around coaching, and I think it was natural for me to get into coaching without playing.
So you sort of transitioned into that, I guess, as you were having thoughts about, do I play overseas? What do I go from there? That's kind of when you decided, I don't want that daily routine, but I still want to be around the game. Am I right on that?
Right, correct. Yeah, I just decided that, I don't want to play, but I still love the game and wanted to be around the game.
Understandable. Well, now we're going to get into your coaching career. 17 years so far. I'm sure you've seen a lot of good and a lot of bad. So I want to hear, what are some of the best parts from your coaching career? What do you really enjoy, and then what are some of the hardest parts about coaching? I mean, even in my half of a semester of coaching, I've seen some good and some bad already. So I can't imagine what you're going through right now.
The best part is just working with kids all the time. I think training kids, working on fundamentals, trying to get them to become a better team. I think that's the best thing about coaching. Seeing kids go off to play college basketball, all the hard work that they put into the game, and overcome certain aspects in their lives, and just how they grow up and seeing them change is really one of the best parts of coaching. And, you know, and I'll be honest, like one of the worst things about coaching is just, just trying to be honest with people, you know, just telling them either you're not good enough to play at that level or these are the things that you need to work on. I was just looking at Twitter and someone was talking about how people don't like to be criticized. And I think in coaching, I believe that to help somebody out, you have to tell them the things that they're not good at. And most kids and most parents don't take those things as well as they're delivered. You know, they kind of get upset. Like, you don't shoot the ball well enough to take 10 threes a game. Well, I can make that shot. I've made that shot before. Well, you know, 1 out of 10 is not a good percentage when you're shooting that shot. So it just, you know, it's just having that dialogue with kids and parents and trying to help their kid get better is sometimes the most challenging part of coaching. And, you know, and to me, it's not about winning or losing. It's more about getting the kids to get better and understand what it takes to become better. So coaching has a lot of ups and downs. You know, I've coached at Christiansburg High School where we won a state championship. And I've coached at Christiansburg High School where we won 7 games. So there's a myriad of layers to coaching, some good and some bad, like you said, Cliff.
So following up kind of that, and I agree with you, the 1 in 10 thing, that's definitely that definitely happens. And you know, I think if Cliff remembers right, when he first played, I think there were 3 people on his team who were allowed to shoot threes, and it was 8th grade. And I was like, nobody else can shoot a 3. You're not allowed. But now, as far as that goes, though, when you're, you know, you start 3 different head coaching jobs now.
Yeah.
So how do you approach when you're trying to build your program, and what things you're trying to like instill in your kids and things of that nature?
I think the main thing is that they have to put in work outside of practice. A lot of kids want to come to practice and work hard. And I have a saying, I'll say a kid is either a kid that plays hard or he's a kid that works hard. I think there's a big difference. There's a lot of kids that get in the game and they'll do anything and everything to help in the game. But after the game is over, during practice or in individual or small group training, they're not putting in all the effort. So they play hard, but they don't necessarily work hard. And I think at the high school level, at every place that I've been, it's just trying to get kids to come to open gym consistently, giving them opportunities to get up shots, giving them opportunities to kind of study the game, watching film, I think is a big key. But I think the main thing is just getting them in the gym as much as possible to help them improve. Doesn't always work because a lot of times, you know, in high school, you can't force a kid to come. He either wants to come or he doesn't come. But, you know, I always try to give them an opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from coaching is trying to develop kids by getting them in the gym.
So following up, you just maybe go ahead, Cliff. You need something. I had something to.
No, I just started laughing as soon as he's talked about, you know, some kids. I think, you know, we had this conversation when Oak Hill played when we played you guys about it's just, I think it's just across the board. Kids say one thing, but their actions they're not lining up. So yeah. So when you mentioned that, I just started cracking up because I mean it's the same everywhere, and you know I'm with you. I mean I think, you know, there's plenty of kids that are going to play hard, but you know they're never going to progress. But as long if they know that, then I've got no issue with it. But you know if it's, hey, I want to play college basketball, but you know I don't really want to get in the gym. Yeah, exactly. You do. I know that, you know, we've been doing workouts over here, and I tried my little first experiment. You know, usually we've got kids in the gym, and myself and another coach are putting them through workouts. So I mean, and again, it's easy when somebody's in the gym telling you what to do. You know, you're gonna act like you know what you're doing. But you know, the past week and a half, I've kind of just opened gym and said, hey, this is your time. Do with it what you want to do. And then I think you learn a lot about kids as far as, how good they want to become as to how they take that time when nothing is structured. What are they doing with that time? You learn a lot from kids that way. But go ahead, Coach Bucket.
What I was going to follow up with, I've noticed this like in girls and boys basketball both. I feel like creativity is not or they watch the NBA and they try to do every single move in the NBA, or vice versa, they don't have any moves.
Right. Yeah. It's like analysis by analysis. Like they're trying to do every single thing that, like Drew Hanlon or Ryan Goodson or any trainer out there, Damon Altizer, they're trying to do every move, but they don't realize those guys are just trying to show you a move that somebody has perfected. You have to make your own move. So I worked with Breakthrough Basketball this summer, doing a bunch of camps, and Jim Huber is the guy that developed the curriculum. And, there's a lot of stuff in there, but he always talks about you have to have an A move, a go-to move. And I think kids don't understand that. It's like you said, Coach, they've got 100 moves, but they don't know when to do it, because a lot of times when they're doing those moves, what are they doing it against? They're doing it against a cone or a D-man. They're not doing it against a live person, or they're doing it in a faux live situation where the trainer is like running by because he's trying to make you work on this move. But that doesn't happen in a game. I was at an AAU tournament this weekend. I saw 100 kids try to Euro step in a 2-on-3 fast break. Like, there's 3 guys in the lane. Pass the basketball. That's the best play you can make. And it just hurts my head to watch it. I'm like, what are you guys doing? It always ends in a turnover, a missed shot, or the ball gets blocked. And I think I saw it go in like twice, and everybody's like standing up cheering, like, oh, he just made the greatest move ever. I'm like, oh my goodness, please stop. Just what happened to stopping at the free throw line and shooting a pull-up or throwing a pass to your teammate? Like, I haven't seen that happen very often.
The dribbling outside the three-point line, like just standing in the same spot making all these moves, just kills me. And it's the same thing with, the people who can only go right, the whole team only goes right the whole time. It's like if you could make a hole in the floor, you would just by dribbling you could do it. But
just dribble the air out of the ball. I always say, like, guys, the ball is dead, so you might as well just pass it around. You don't need to bounce it so hard. You're not gonna kill it. Okay, it's already dead. Just move the basketball in the air, pass it, screen and cut. And I think that's the biggest thing that's missing in today's game. Kids have learned to be really good dribblers, but not good basketball players. There's a lot of good one-on-one players, but unless you're in the NBA, that stuff's not going to get you anywhere.
What do you think that is? What is that a byproduct of? Just curious. Do you have any ideas of why that's the case at this point?
Honestly, I think it's from kids not playing the game in a situation where if you lose, it costs you something. Like, they're more worried about how they score than they are whether their team wins. Like, I grew up playing in the park with older guys. So if I'm out there and I make a mistake, guess what I'm not doing next game? I'm not playing next game. If I'm not passing the ball, I'm not going to be on the floor. So I learned how to play without the basketball, because those guys weren't going to have that. Like, I'm not picking you up. You're going to sit over there. I know you can dribble the ball, but I want to touch the ball. Everybody wants to have their hands on it. And I just think nowadays kids, the only time they play is in a scrimmage situation where it's 5-on-5. So there's never like 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, or they never just go somewhere to a rec center or to a park and just play 5-on-5 with a bunch of random people. So I think that's what causes some of these problems. And everybody's got a trainer that's teaching them a one-on-one situation, and it's just hard to get them to understand that that's not how the game is played.
Yeah. I think there's gotta, I don't want to poo-poo trainers. There's a lot of great trainers out there, but I think there's no balance anymore. It's just all
right.
Training. And if you are in a gym, you're not playing against any competition. You're just right. In there. I know when I was, coming through high school in Galax, at that time, Galax had some really good years. We had some really solid athletes, and just like you were saying at the park, I mean, at our rec center, there were, 50, 60 guys in there that could play. So like you said, it meant something, every possession you had, it really meant something. So, I definitely see what you're saying there. Transitioning into, I like we said, there's a lot of things that are similar across the board, as far as playing. But maybe on the administrative side, I'm not sure, but I know, you've coached at Auburn and Christiansburg, those public schools. Has there been any difference that you've noticed, transitioning into Roanoke Catholic at a private school? What's the differences there, if any?
As far as players or like administrative, like just everything, anything?
I would say, I mean, I would think in my opinion, the playing is probably fairly similar, but there may be things that I don't know. But I'd just be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple game. I think a lot of kids come to Catholic with aspirations to attend college, maybe not play basketball in college, maybe not even play a sport at all in college. Some of them come to play football, some basketball, maybe some want to run track. But I think like 95 to 99% of the students at Roanoke Catholic are trying to go to college. And a 4-year school, not just like a community college for a couple years and then, get their associates and bachelors, because they didn't really have a path in public school. And I think that's the biggest difference. And I'm not trying to down public school. I just think we have like 400 kids in Roanoke Catholic, and in the upper school, there's like 100 and some. So those kids come in with a different type of focus, whereas at Christiansburg High School, there was like 1,100 students when I was there, 9th through 12th. So I think some of those kids are just, trying to figure it out. They're in school. They don't really know what they want to do. They don't really have a lot of direction. I just think that's the biggest thing between public and private, is that most of those kids in private schools, at least at Roanoke Catholic, from what I've seen, have more of a direction on where they want to go. They're paying thousands of dollars for an education. I would hope, that they are in it for the right reason, and they're not just going to school and be like, I'll figure it out in a couple of years and take some time off. I think that's the biggest difference. And I've had, my basketball teams have been up and down at Roanoke Catholic because of tuition, and I'm sure you see it at Oak Hill. One year you might have 3 kids come in, and you might have 2 or 3 kids leave that played the year before. Then they didn't graduate. They just left the school, maybe went on to another school. They went back to a public school or went back to their home. So it's just, that's the hardest thing, I think, for me, is trying to figure out the season, because the season has never been the same kids that I thought was going to be there when the school year ended the year before. So that's a big difference between public and private.
So, we're just talking about developing players and kind of, everybody wants to score and things like that. And 2 things, I guess. One is, defensively, how do you get kids to commit on defense? And what do you find is the best way to develop players?
I get them to commit on defense. If you don't play defense, you just come and sit down. Like I think I found that's the best way. We work a lot on defense in practice, and some years we're good, some years we're bad. I do have one rule: if you can score 30 points, you don't have to play as much defense as everybody else. I give you some leniency defensively. Like, hey, he can get 30 guys. Like, he's going to get beat, so you're going to have to help him out, because you can only score 5 on a good night. So you can't be the guy that's out there letting your man score 20 points, because I need you to stop him. And I think developing players is we tried to work on a lot of stuff where they're moving, and like 2-3 dribbles. That's the max that we do. We may do a ball handling warm up for like 10 minutes, but after that, like, I don't want to see a kid take more than 3 dribbles in anything we're doing, even coming off of a ball screen. Like, getting to the screen, we can allow more. But then once you come off the ball screen, it's 2-3 dribbles. And I think that's the best thing that we found to develop the players and help them understand how to play without the basketball. So we do a lot of stuff coming off of pin downs, flare screens, and we try to incorporate a lot of our development stuff comes from our offense. So we'll work on setting a screen, like America's play. We'll work on that. He'll go set a screen and then come off of a pin down, off of a chair, and catch and shoot, or catch one dribble pull up, catch, two dribbles pull up. We work on step backs and all that, but I think that's the best thing that we found, and also make sure that we focus on their feet. I think a lot of players nowadays have really bad footwork, and maybe it's not taught, maybe it is taught. Sometimes kids are stubborn and it's harder for them to pick it up, but I think it's a little slower when you do it that way, but I think in the long run, it's better for kids.
And I always tell all my kids to watch Klay Thompson shoot. Don't watch Steph Curry, because Steph Curry is like, he does stuff that nobody can do. But Klay Thompson's got the perfect form, and his feet are always set. And it's, it kills me watching free throws. Some of the kids have the wrong foot lined up on the free throw line, and they're shooting against their body. Cliff and I've had that conversation before. And we see it all the time, and really quickly who can shoot and who can't just by looking at their feet most of the time.
Yeah, no, it's big. Yeah, got kids shooting the ball from their hips, especially when they're young. I know before we got on here, we were talking about fifth graders or fourth graders, like they're shooting it from their hip, and their mom and dad wants them to play on a 10-foot, and I'm like, he needs to be shooting on an 8-foot goal because he can't get it there from 15 feet. And they're like, no, he can make threes. All right, he can chuck it up there like I'm shooting from the other free throw line. Yeah, but I might make 1 out of 20. That doesn't mean I can make those shots when it counts. So you're right. Footwork is really big, and you can tell a lot from how they get set up if they can shoot or not.
Completely agree. Yeah, that's honestly one of the things that I work on with our kids here. I don't know a whole lot about anything other than shooting, so that's about all I got.
You did that really well, Cliff. I remember trying to stop you. So,
yeah, I mean, we talk about that a lot, and I think it is, like you said, it does slow things down, but. All of my kids at least say that they want to play college basketball, and I'm sure, yeah. So if they say that, then I'm going to treat them like, hey, you're not going to have as much time as you're having in these games. Get your shot off. I mean, even if it looks good up here, if you're not catching ready to shoot the basketball, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's over. As far as now we're transitioning into some game time decisions and stuff. I think you've got an interesting coaching style, comparatively speaking to others. You're not super animated and things like that, and I think it works well for you, obviously. But as far as your playing time philosophy, I want to hear what you have about that, and in-game substitutions, how you go about those things.
Playing time, I really believe I want my best 5 players to get as much time as possible. And that's going to vary from game to game, because I also believe if you're not playing well and you're still one of my best 5, you're not going to play. Like, I think I can find somebody else that's going to play well. Now, if I don't have anybody that's playing well, then my philosophy is I'm just going to stick with my best 5, and hopefully by the end of the game, they can figure it out. And a lot of my substitution is really on a rotation. So before the season, I'll plan out like 10 players, and I'll play a lot of people all the time, and a lot of people don't do that because they feel like you only need 8 people. And I feel like if I have 10 guys that can contribute in some way, then I think everybody's going to play harder because they know they'll have an opportunity to get a rest. So a lot of my substitution pattern is done off of a rotation. I sit down before the season, I look at the 2 people at this position, and I'm like, all right, this kid is my best player. If we're playing 32 minutes, he should probably get like 60 to 70% of those minutes. And then I'll figure that out, and then I'll divvy up, like, in the first quarter, he'll probably play 5 minutes, and then I'll sit him down for 3 minutes. And then maybe if he's playing well, he'll start the second quarter, and he'll probably play a lot more in the second quarter if he's playing well. But if he's not, then I'll just stick with the rotation and sub him out at about 5 minutes. So a lot of my philosophy is just come from playing the game. As a player, I always thought that I could contribute something to the game at any point in the game, no matter what team I was on, whether it was defensively, rebounding. I never thought that I was going to go in and try to score 20 points at any level. That was just never my approach to the game. My approach was always, how can I help the team win? So I try to give my players the confidence by knowing they're going to play. So every game you're going to get an opportunity to make a difference. Now, it's up to you what you do with that opportunity. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. And I just try to stick with that as long as I can until we get to like conference tournament time. And then I'll probably back off. I'll still play 10 kids, but they'll probably get less minutes towards the playoffs.
So kind of following that up, with how you structure your practices and game preparation, so people can understand how much goes into that with basketball being, 2-3 games possibly in a week. So how do you structure your practices, and how do you prepare for like an opponent coming up for the week and things like that?
Right. So practice, I have a master practice sheet. It's like 2-3 pages long. I have every drill picked out that I want to use for the season going into it. And sometimes I'll go through a couple practices and be like, all right, we're not doing these things well. Like we don't rebound well, then I'll focus more on rebounding for a few practices in a row. If we're not shooting well, then I'll add more shooting into the practice. But I've got like I said, just a blueprint of all the practices. I break it down. So we'll start with warm up, and then we'll go with like some type of shooting, or actually we'll go with defense, because that's the best thing I think the kids kind of get going through practice. We'll start with like 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, something like that. Then from defense, we might go into rebounding. And then after we've done some competitive stuff, they're a little winded, we'll get into shooting. And then after that, we'll probably get into offensive breakdown, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, whatever it is. And as the season goes on, it'll go from 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 to more 3-on-3, 4-on-4. And then at the end of the season, we're not doing any 3-on-3, 4-on-4. We're normally 5-on-5. And then the last thing I do in practice is try to work on our strategy. Like whether we're going to play a lot of zone against a team, or whether we're going to play man-to-man, or what kind of defense they play. If I've gotten huddle video, I'll add in like a couple sets that they run and talk about it, and how we're going to attack those different defenses or offenses. If they got a big, we got to double down on. We'll try to incorporate all that into practice, so that when the game comes, we're not like looking like a bunch of buffoons out there like, hey, this guy's killing us inside. We weren't ready for this. Like then I feel like, well, dang, I haven't prepared my team. Like I didn't know he could do that. So hopefully, we've got some good intel, and the kids know what kids can do. And that's another thing that's hard, is trying to get a kid to believe in, this is the scouting report. That kid, I want him to shoot 5 threes because I know he might make one, but that's okay. And kids will have a kid make one. They're like, Coach, what do I do? Keep letting him shoot. Like challenge him. Shot, it's okay. That's what I want. Like don't abandon the scouting report because he actually did something that we were probably expecting him to make a couple. Like he's not going to miss all of them, but I'd rather that than somebody else take all the shots that I know is going to make. Like Cliff's out there, he's going to go 4 for 6. This kid's going to go 2 for 5. Which one's better? Like, I don't know. Like, he's probably not even go 2 for 5. He's going to go 1 for 5. And if Cliff goes 4 for 6, now he's getting in the lane. He's creating problems for us after that, because now he's on the free throw line, or he's kicking it out to the guy that's not going to make any, but now he's getting wide open shots because we had to help so much. So I try to spend a lot of time just preparing for our opponents, especially late in the season, just trying to get every bit of information that I can from whoever, and just try to make sure that we're prepared once we get into the game situation.
I also wanted to ask you this. You've been in this. You've been coaching for 17 years. You've been around the game your whole life. Where do you find the drive to keep coaching? Has there ever been a time that you've been debating, like, should I stop? Should I just get out of this? Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, it's probably March. I thought about it. Yeah, no, I really haven't. I really enjoy it. I grew up around the game. Like I said, my brother's a high school coach. My father was a high school basketball coach. So, that's just like in my DNA. Is just to be a basketball coach. So I don't know, like, if I decide to not coach high school basketball, I got a 9-year-old son, so I don't want him, not understanding how to play the game. So I would probably transition into coaching like a 10U travel team. So I just think it's just ingrained in me, being from Indiana. There's really, when I was growing up, there was only really one sport at the time, and that was basketball. Like, all the basketball players were well known in the town or in the state. The Midwest, I think, was a hotbed at the time for high school basketball. So I just love to teach kids how to play. I love to train kids. I love to coach. It's just something that I enjoy. So I don't ever see myself getting out of it until, I don't have a choice but to get out of it. I just, I love being around the game.
What do you think? I'm sure this plays into it, just loving the game. But what do you think has been your key to being successful? I mean, you've won a state championship. You've been on, multiple really, really good teams. You've played, at a super high level. So what's been that key for you?
I have no idea. Honestly, like it's crazy, but I just grew up, and some people are like, oh, I'm going to go be a Division I basketball player. I don't remember having those thoughts. I was always taught to just be the best basketball player that you can be. And if you become the best basketball player you can be, maybe it will take you somewhere. I didn't know it was going to take me into being a high school coach. I just think, I've been blessed to be around good coaching. Like Coach Eric from Fork Union, my college coach, I think Bill Foster was a really good college coach. Bobby Hussey was his assistant. They had been around the game for years. I study a lot of basketball training. I study a lot of basketball sets, defensive strategies, tactics and technical skills. I just really put a lot of time into it, and I just try to give that to other people. So I think that's why I've been successful, just because I've just tried to give everything I know to other people, no matter who it is. If it's an opponent, a coach that I have to play against all the time, I don't mind sharing anything with them. I don't have a problem talking to anybody about what I do, what I've done. And really, I've really been blessed with a lot of talented players, like my Christiansburg team that won the state. Like, those guys were just really talented, really hard-nosed kids, really bought in to whatever I was telling them to do. So I've just had a lot of good people around me in basketball, and I think that's why I've been successful, including my brother and my father. Like, they're really good. They're really smart when it comes to basketball, their IQ. My dad was training me at a young age. I was wearing strength shoes, weighted vests, jumping on mini trampolines, jumping with heavy ropes. Like, he had me in the weight room. Like, my dad really did a lot for me, and I just try to take those things that he did for me and just do it for other people.
So, kind of following that up in the question that, what's something you may have learned? It might have been from your dad, it could have been from somebody else too, like from a coach or another player, either something you learned and you're like, I really like that. That's something I want to do, or maybe something you learned from somebody else. It might have been an opposing coach that maybe you didn't like, or like one of those.
Gosh, I mean, I think everything that I do, I got from somebody else. Like, there's nothing that I've done in coaching that I haven't done myself. Like a coach hasn't told me to do it, or I haven't, asked kids to do anything that a coach didn't tell me to do. And I always tell the kids that, like, when I make you run 2 line drills, that's what my coach did. I've never had a coach like make me get on the line and run until I threw up. So I would never do that to a kid. And those are just, I think, the things that I've learned is that, basketball is a sport that's, it's kind of universal. Like everybody just takes stuff from everyone else. Like I've learned stuff from Cliff in our conversations about, training kids and the way that he has to train kids there at Oak Hill and his thoughts about the kids at Oak Hill. I think we share the same philosophy, but even his father, I've learned things from him just dealing with people. Like I just think you've got to learn from everybody just to be successful in life. And like you said, sometimes you learn what not to do. And I've learned, I don't want to be the coach that runs kids until they throw up. I just don't see any value in that. Or the coach that doesn't get on my star as much as I get on my 15th man. Like if I got 15 guys on the team, I'm yelling at the first guy as much as I'm yelling at the last guy. And I've learned that some coaches don't do that. And I just think that doesn't breed a successful atmosphere, because if you're yelling at one of your weaker players or one of the players that maybe he's a freshman and he doesn't understand all the time, and your seniors running around doing the same thing and not getting held accountable, I just think that envy comes in and the team is just not going to bond. So I just think, everything that I've learned from someone else, multiple people.
So following that, one of the things that, you've coached for a long period of time, what all has changed since you started coaching?
I just think kids aren't as mentally tough as kids were 10 years ago. Like my first high school team, I could tell those kids anything and they would like try to run through a brick wall for me. Like I had a drill where I would make them hold 2 bricks and just stand in a stance for like a minute or 2 minutes. If I did that today, like I'd have 10 parents calling me. The biggest thing is that, parents are more involved, which can be a good thing because you want parents involved in their kids' lives. But I think sometimes they get a little too involved and don't allow their kids to grow up and experience failure or success on their own.
Well, I know that Cliff's getting harsh memories from me. I think he said the hardest trial he ever had was in 8th grade, and they did
that's a fact.
Bear cross suicides to end it. Those were.
That's true. I know we've talked about a lot of your playing days, your high school coaching experience, but you got a Spectrum shirt on right now, so I want to talk a little bit, just briefly, about your experience there and the whole AAU circuit. Just as a whole, at least, my thinking is it's almost a necessary evil from my standpoint. But I've never coached in that arena. I'd be interested to hear, what you kind of had to say, what you think AAU is good for, bad for, those kind of things.
Gosh, it really just depends. Like, I don't know. I can start from when I played. When I played AAU, there were fewer tournaments. AAU, which is what it's called now, but it's really not AAU because that's the, Amateur Athletic Union. Most teams would play in the AAU national tournament, or maybe they played in like one Nike tournament. I think in Las Vegas, there was like 2 or 3 live periods going on. And now, it's just morphed into this huge thing where you've got Nike sponsoring teams, Under Armour and Adidas sponsoring teams, which I don't think is a bad thing. I just think sometimes the kids are getting shortchanged because it's almost like they're being used by certain individuals. And I'm not saying that all people are like this or every program or Nike, Under Armour, or Adidas, but there's some programs out there where kids are just there for the coach to move on to the next level. And And then you've got big shots. You've got Phenom Hoop Report, which you probably played in 100 tournaments yourself down there in North Carolina. Then you've got like Hoop Group. So there's all kinds of places for kids to play. And I think, the bad part about it is that kids end up playing too many games. I think that goes into their lack of competitiveness because they don't really care if they win or lose sometimes because they know, like, we lost the game, but I got 2 more games tomorrow. So whether we lose this game or not, I'm still going to be playing. Like, there's no consequence for losing sometimes, especially in certain leagues. But I think it's the best way for kids to be seen. College coaches during the season can't get out to Floyd and watch a kid play. They're not coming to Christiansburg to watch a kid if he's talented or not. They're not, they're not going to these rural areas. So I think AAU gives a lot of kids an opportunity to be seen by some coaches. I just think, there's got to be a better way to do it to allow, like, I've got an independent team. Like, we're not sponsored by Under Armour. We wear Under Armour gear. The person that runs the organization, his team is on the Under Armour circuit, and he does a really good job. Like, Chris Johnson is his name. He does a really good job of promoting my kids down here in Southwest Virginia. But I don't know that every organization is doing that. I don't know if they're all trying to help all of the kids in their organization. They might have 50 kids, but are you helping 50 or are you just helping the 5 that really don't need it because Power 5 schools are out there coming to watch them play? I don't really know, like, if it's good or bad. I just know that college coaches only have a certain amount of time to recruit players, and if it wasn't for AAU, then a lot of times they wouldn't be able to see kids. So I don't know. I can't say yes or no. And the reason I got into it because I wanted to basically have an opportunity to teach kids how to play the right way, even though it's AAU. So I'll lose kids from my organization because I don't like that they take 10 dribbles in a possession and I take them out for doing that. I want them to learn how to move the ball and play in a system where you're not the main ball handler, because you know how it is. Once you go to college, how many guys on your team are allowed to create shots?
Right.
Like,
right. And again, even if you are, it's a 2 and 3 dribble. I mean, most people aren't creating. I mean, there's not a whole lot of Kyries and James Hardens in the world. I mean, there's
not a lot of 4 guys over here on one side of the floor, and then it's one-on-one on this side, and the other 4 defenders are just watching while you go one-on-one. Like, no, there's 2 or 3 guys standing in the lane. So if you do get beat by that guy, there's going to be somebody there to stop you. And you have to learn to pass the ball to somebody else. So that's why I got into it, just so I could kind of be involved at a higher level with kids and help them learn how to play and kind of promote them a little more.
Well, I mean, it's definitely needed. It is. But I definitely agree with you, too. I mean, like you said, nobody's coming to Galax, and nobody's coming to these small places. So, I mean,
yeah,
if you're playing at a small school, you're not at Montverde, you're not at Oak Hill, you're not at IMG. I mean, you have to do something. And
right.
I agree with you. It's just kind of sucks that it is the way it is right now.
Well,
but there's
evil.
It is. There's no real alternative there. That was interesting to hear your take on that. So we've talked, we're about to wrap this thing up. We've talked about, your playing days at Virginia Tech, transition into your high school coaching, private school at Roanoke Catholic, and, we've talked a little bit about your AAU experience. Sort of bring all of those together. I know you've got a ton of memories from doing these things. But just for our listeners, what is maybe one game or one memory, some of your favorite memories, just briefly, from your coaching and playing days? What are those looking like for you?
I just think it's any time, and this has happened several times, where my team wins a game that they're not supposed to win. Like, we're struggling through the season. We start off, maybe we're like 2-9. I've been coaching teams, and I'm like, good day. We were 0-10 at one time. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to win a game this season. Like, if we win the game, I will be surprised. And then next thing you know, we go on the streak and we win like 6 or 7 games. It was Christiansburg at the time. We go into Cave Spring, and like I think they were maybe 1 or 2 in the league, and we were like 6. And we go in there and we beat Cave Spring, and I don't know if you know, but like nobody ever wins at Cave Spring. And that is like the one place that I used to always love to go and play when I was at Christiansburg, because everybody, like Coach Hanks at Pulaski used to talk about, like, how do you win at Cave Spring? And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's because my offense is random, because in Indiana it was motion offense. Like, it really is random. Like, we work on it all the time, but it's just motion. Like, I'll have a few sets, but we're just passing, cutting, passing and screening, and just playing basketball. And, I learned from Coach Eric, you can't scout that, because one time there might be 2 screens, the next time there might be 4 cuts. So you have no idea what's going to happen. So I just think, anytime I can get a team and at the end of the season just come together and just win a big game, like a state tournament game where we didn't have a chance to win. I know my most fondest memory outside of winning the state championship was the first year I think I was at Christiansburg. We were like 4th or 5th in the conference. We're like 500 on the year. We go into Salem. It's the conference championship. It's at Salem High School. We're playing Salem, and I'm like coaching the game. I have no idea how we're going to play. We're playing terrible. Finally, it's the end of the game. We're down. It's a tie game, and Salem's got the ball. There's like 8 seconds on the clock, and one of their kids like drives in and shoots a tough layup with like 4 seconds on the clock, and everybody's like, what is he doing? Like, it was too early. So my kid, he ended up playing basketball at Tusculum, Zach Davis, gets the ball, rebounds it off the glass, dribbles to like the 3-point line on the opposite end, heaves it, it goes in the basket, and we end up winning the conference tournament my first year at Christiansburg. And like, I look in the video and kids off the bench, one kid has a water bottle, he throws it up in the air, and he's like, kids are running around. My assistant coach is like skipping around all over the place. But that was like one of the best memories I think I can remember in coaching. And I've got a couple more like that, but that one stands out to me just because that was my first year at Christiansburg, and we just kind of overcame a lot of adversity that year.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's stuff like that's always, you can always remember when somebody does something you don't expect them to do, or you just overcome. It's a great feeling with that. Just kind of finishing up here, the one thing we're going to ask is, what's something somebody doesn't know about you? Like, that's something, that you might like to do that they just wouldn't know about you, or anything like that.
Something that somebody doesn't know about me? Gosh, I don't, it might be that I play a lot of PlayStation. Like, I don't know if anybody knows that. Like, my players probably know this, but other people don't know that. Like, I used to be the guy that would, wait for a midnight release, sitting outside of GameStop, waiting to get my NCAA college football game. And I'm still like that today. Like, I just got the Marvel Avengers game and download. I've been playing that like all day long. Like, this is what I do. Like, in my spare time, that's what I like to do. And that's probably something that people don't know about me.
You on Call of Duty?
I love Call of Duty. That's all. I get like 3 games: Call of Duty, Madden, and NBA 2K. That's it. And I'll play those in rotation, however I feel. I love it. It's competitive. Like, it's competition. That's what.
See,
that's why I do it.
My nephew was talking all kinds of trash to me because I got on there and hadn't played forever, and I ended up getting a team victory before he did. So the trash talking was like not nonstop from that point. So he was calling.
I don't like Warzone or Fortnite. Like I don't play that part of the game. I just play like online multiplayer. But I will say this: there's another game that I play all the time, and people probably don't know it, but it's Clash Royale. Like it's like a middle schooler's game. I think. So I'm online. I'm in some clan, and I'm sure they're like 13, 14-year-olds in there, and they don't know that you're playing with a 46-year-old man all the time. So.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, it's been we appreciate having you on, Coach. It's been a lot of fun. You've given us a lot of good insights. So, we hope to have you on again, and obviously wish you the best of luck in your season. Hopefully, we have a season. Hope to see you soon. So,
hopefully we can make a trip there sometime and get beat up again like we did last time. So.